Oh, okay. We're officially going.
Sure.
So, we'll just we'll talk and they can get extra information anyway. We'll just chit chat a little bit. But because I clicked that thing early, I should know. But whatever.
That's fine. How did the talk go?
It was great. Actually, went really well. Went a lot smoother than I thought it was going to go. It was amazing. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's really good.
So I'm super happy about it. So what I'll do then, just to, I mean, there was a lot of hacks. I was covering off a lot of different areas. So I was a little worried I was going to like stumble in parts of it that I wasn't like, I call it all the way up to speed on, but no, it went quite well. So
awesome.
Anyway, yeah. So what I'll do here is I'll just ask you a couple of like preliminary questions.
Sure.
And we'll talk about the course because this will all be on replay.
Okay.
So therefore, at least this will be productive time versus it being dead air time.
Sure.
Yeah. So, Greg, I know we're going to do an introduction here in a couple of minutes in relation to what you're here to do today and talk about HRV, heart rate variability, and some of the aspects of how that will be can be used and impact both healthy lifestyle, fitness, and performance. One of the things I want people to understand is that, obviously today is meant to be a fundamental course, webinar overview, but you actually have the heart rate variability foundations course that you teach and it's available online. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this was designed in 2016 for in conjunction with a gentleman by the name of Jason Moore. He runs a company called Elliott HRV, and what we found was one of the biggest problems with the understanding of HRV was that everyone came from different angles. You talk about there's the strength conditioning, people that dealt with it there, the aerobic training, the mental stress, the medical side of things, and it seemed to be very, every information that was guided towards a specific area. So what we wanted to do is kind of show the holistic nature of what actually HRV is and how can it be applied to each of these areas to kind of have more of a comprehensive understanding of it all. So what the course goes through is it goes through very much the fundamental science aspect of heart rate variability, what it actually is and what it actually measures. It goes through all of the statistical analyses that kind of come with it, as you read research and see different numbers, like what do those numbers mean? And then from there, we get into the applications of how does it apply for different areas of health and wellness? How does it apply into, sport performance? How does it apply to mental and physical health and recovery and regeneration? And then we have a quite a lengthy seminar at the end of saying, okay, well, if you want to be able to incorporate this into your business, necessarily, here's how, right? The information is more of if you're curious, and then if you want to be a part of, seeing clients or patients to be able to do improvement in their health and well-being by using heart rate variability. We have a whole section of how to get started. Where do you go? What do you do with starting with HRV, and then how necessarily you can use it for your business.
Awesome. Sweet. So Christina's online right now. So hey, Christina,
Hello.
we're just filling. I made the mistake of pushing the button at the top, the broadcast button.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just putting in some fillers here, some information that will be useless on replay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can always cut it into different sections as well.
Okay, awesome. People will just be able to come in now, right? As they come on.
So you'll just need to do the live.
Yeah.
Which at this point you can really do whenever you guys are ready, and I'll just pop off. Chad, you'll want to make Greg a co-host since you're the host, so that he can share if he needs to share.
Okay, that's.
And then once
I can share now. It's not. It's fine.
Maybe because you're a panelist. Yeah. Okay. And Chad, you're the host, so you have full capabilities. What I'll do is I'll pop off.
Don't pop off yet.
I won't.
Just making sure. So now he already is the co-host, right?
He's a panelist, so he should have capabilities to share and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I got enough. Yeah. I can share my screen, share my PowerPoint, so it's awesome. All good.
Okay, so I just got to go live. It's the only thing left to do, correct?
Yep, and then you'll show. So just keep in mind that they'll be able to see both you and Greg unless you spotlight his video.
Right, and how do I do that?
You'll hover over the more and you'll click spotlight video, but you won't be able to see you. So they won't be able to see you if you do that. So
right now, when I do that, all I see is live on Facebook, live on Workplace by Facebook, live on YouTube.
More over Greg's name. Go to the participants.
Okay. Oh, like the dots?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I got to do what?
And if you want them to just see Greg, you'll spotlight the video.
Spotlight. Okay, got it. Awesome. Sweet. Nice.
All right.
Good.
Are we confident? Ready to go?
I'm confident we will be live. I'm confident that I'll get it on Facebook, and I'm confident that Greg's going to do an amazing job.
Greg, if you didn't know, Chad and I have worked together for almost 8 years now, Chad, or longer. Yeah. So, and in previous roles as well. So I'm joking with him saying he can't do it.
Well, I know it's the same battle with my wife. Funny enough, it's you know, she goes, so what do I do? How do I do this? And
yeah, like, okay, well, it is rather confusing if you're not familiar.
Oh no,
well, the thing is, and I use a different platform. I actually use a different platform to host my seminars. So you know, I've been the participant on this platform lots, but I've never been the host. Yeah. So anyway, it's all good.
Okay, you're good, Chad. You'll just do like a little intro. Most people in the community probably know who you are, Chad, but do an intro for yourself and do an intro for Greg so that we can include that in the recording.
Yeah, will do.
Cool. Okay, do you need me? Are you good?
No, I think I got it.
Okay. I can always hop back in if need be. I have my phone, so text me. I'm going to be watching from Facebook because if I watch from here, they'll see me. So I'll just pop off and then I'll watch from the live.
Okay, awesome.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, no problem.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Greg, just before I actually go live with this, I want to make sure that I actually, okay, I want to make sure I get your specific credentials down in a simple way. So master's degree, right?
Yeah, so I go into it very quickly in the intro there, but
okay.
Yeah.
I'll do a real quick version of how I've come to know you a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely.
Sweet. All right, that's good. Sorry, I'm gonna send this thing live on Facebook because I think that's where a lot of people are gonna be. Some people should come in here. Like, I'm not sure what the registration numbers are, but most people do this stuff on replay now anyway, so I don't get too concerned about it.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So give it 1 second.
Curtis came in and out.
We did.
I guess because he's signed in. I guess as a.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're live. We're officially live. Well, Greg, first of all, I just want to say welcome. Thanks for taking this opportunity to spend some time with Personal Trainers Network. Honestly, a true privilege to have you here, being, you know, basically the SME. I'm a big fan of SMEs, and you definitely would be the subject matter expert as far as heart rate variability goes. So I have the privilege to have you on here. And I would say, to be honest, to give people a lot of insight into what heart rate variability is and how it can actually impact your daily life. It's going to be very insightful for anybody who watches this. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to impact the community in a very useful way, because I do believe this is the future of bio-individualization and biohacking one's body. I think is going to be clearly the direction that we're going to start to go as far as information and personal health, personal training, performance, all those things, in the direction that we're going to take those industries over the next 5 to 10 years. So just real quick, guys, Greg is someone that I've known from afar. He actually used to work for Innovative Fitness, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, back in the day, 2010, 11 to 13, 14, somewhere in there.
So it's interesting. We've never actually met, but his name has come across my desktop at no less than 50 times over the course of the last couple of years, and in all kinds of different reasons, for all kinds of different reasons, to be perfectly honest. And you know, some associated with some of the things he does on his day job, some of it with another friend of ours, Kevin Hendry, because of those guys, you know, actually going to osteopathic school together. I'm gonna pass this over. I just want to say that he's been someone who's become very obvious to me, that's very knowledgeable and very passionate about a number of different areas and has a great deal of expertise in a lot of things, including exercise physiology. And one of those parts of exercise physiology is going to be this heart rate variability we're going to talk about today. So keep your ears wide open, take as many notes as you possibly can. I'm going to be dropping some information into the chat box as we go. Greg's personal contact information, a course that he offers that we're going to discuss a little bit later. It's roughly going to be about 45 minutes of lecture presentation, and then we're going to go into a bit of a fireside chat where we actually give you guys an opportunity and open the forum up to you, but where I direct some of the additional information that you guys may find useful for implementing this inside your world. I hear my phone going off, so I'm going to quickly check to make sure that there's nothing weird going on here. Like there's a reason why I'm getting these messages, I'm pretty certain. Do not see live yet. Still not live. Oh well, it says it's live. Let's check this one more time. Oh, live stream is going. I think it's just delayed. Nope.
Well, we can probably ask the people here. So
Yeah,
we'll do,
good. Yeah. There you go.
all good, looks like.
Okay, sweet. All right, well, Greg, over to you. Can't wait.
Perfect.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, no, this is great. Anytime I have a chance to talk about heart rate variability or kind of this type of area, I'm very intrigued to be able to do so. So this is a fantastic opportunity. I think what Chad and the team at Innovate Fitness are doing is very insightful in regards to do these type of events, and I love doing this type of educational things. I do it quite often. So I'll pull up my PowerPoint here to be able to start the process. Good. And then I guess everyone can see that there. Should be okay. Good. We'll just confirm the chat. Yep, all good. Perfect. Okay. So first off, thanks everybody for taking the time to be able to be here. I know it's lunchtime for most people. You could be earning money or spending time with your family or whatever it may be. So I greatly appreciate that. And as the email sent out indicated, today's about heart rate variability to optimize training and recovery for your clients and yourself. Okay, so typically this is usually about an hour and 50-minute presentation. So I'm trying to narrow it down to 40 minutes. So usually I have a long-winded joke about heart rate variability, but necessarily instead, hold on here. Oops. There we go. Instead, I'll just do an embarrassing photo of myself. So that's when I was 16 years old with a crazy amount of hair. Wow. Very quickly about myself, I have a master's degree in exercise science from Bloomsburg University. I played basketball there. I'm a kinesiologist, exercise physiologist, and I'm currently writing my thesis for my osteopathic practitioner certification. I founded a company, Altius Health and Performance, where I do all my work out of. So that's kind of my hub company. And as Chad mentioned, what I'm known for a lot of the heart rate variability stuff is I've co-founded the Foundations of Heart Rate Variability course, which is run through the Elite HRV Academy as of right now. And we actually have over 4,000 students that have taken it over the last 3.5 years. So we've educated quite a bit of people over the last little while on heart rate variability. So this is an interesting time to have this talk about HRV, because as we get into it, it's a very good indication of everything that we're going through right now. And the biggest thing that people know is that stress is at an all-time high with everything, right? We talk about, financial stress, losing jobs, we talk about elections, you talk about, being, separated from family and friends for long periods of time, and, having to be very careful about going to stores and if you're getting sick or not. So stress is necessarily on a very all-time high. And we're very used to hearing the word stress, understanding, how stress can impact our body. And we're very familiar with stress like working out or, relationship or family type stress, or as we start to know now, kind of this loneliness and isolation that we're necessarily getting into. So this is a super important topic. And I think this is a very important concept to understand when we talk about, heart rate variability and how heart rate variability can help understand this picture. So, what is heart rate variability? We've known that the heart's been, an indication of health for a very long period of time. It's not a new concept, right? So if you look at kind of history and you look at scientific literature and having passed down, you look at the diagnosis from a pulse can be all the way back from 170 AD, right? So we're almost 2,000 years into understanding that the pulse is super important, right? It was first identified, heart rate variability first really kind of used in literature in the 1950s and 60s in regards to Russia with their publications that happened out there. And it was significantly researched in the physical health and space science area, with a large body of the early research being done in cardiovascular and prenatal type medicine. So as you see there, you look at 1965 on the left side there, fetal distress currently used today to determine, how healthy the fetus is. Is the fetus kind of uncomfortable or something happening with the fetus? They use heart rate variability now to be able to see what's going on. So even as a quick search, you're looking at around 50,000 articles right now that are being published up to date in regards to heart rate variability. It has nothing else to do with other mechanisms that are associated with heart rate variability, like respiratory sinus rhythm we'll talk about, or vagal tone, or interbeat intervals, however it's described. So there's a lot of information being provided in regards to heart rate variability in all sorts of health and performance fields. So the big rise is in heart rate variability in regards to the knowledge of it outside of a clinical setting was the advancements of technology. You needed a multiple $1,000 ECG device in order to accurately get heart rate variability or heart rate in general to be able to be scientifically valid, because it's a very sensitive statistic. Where it actually developed now, you just need a heart rate strap and a smartphone app to be able to get the same kind of quality of signal and metrics as an expensive ECG. So when that was able to be discovered, there was a big uptake in the sports performance realm in the early 2000s. And the primary companies that were around then were Omega Wave, Bioforce, iFleet, and Elite HRV. Those were kind of consumed on a sports performance standpoint. So you look at research, and what we're finding in regards to research over the last, say 50, 60 years when it comes to that stuff is that there's a significant amount of information that can be used with heart rate variability in conjunction with various markers. So you look at health markers, you look at cardiovascular disease, life expectancy, cognitive function, insulin sensitivity and diabetes, mental health and well-being, and visceral fat and obesity. See, these are some of the markers that can be used, or the HRV can be used in regards to indications around these type of health measures. In addition, when you look at performance, cardiovascular fitness, performance on an acute, day-to-day or, week-to-week or training block to training block type of information, readiness to train and exercise, decreasing injury risk. It gives information in regards to fatigue and overtraining. So there's a vast amount of information that can be derived from heart rate variability. And usually the question that I get from people that are not necessarily very familiar with heart rate variability goes, well, what's the difference, right? I hear heart rate all the time. Is it 60 beats per minute? Is that you talk about lower heart rate? And it goes way deeper than that, right? So what heart rate variability is a measurement of the R to R interval. So you look at the ECG, you hear the bump, bump, bump. Those R to R intervals, there's a time space that happens in between those. And what heart rate variability is how much variance you have from beat to beat. So when we say we have high heart rate variability, it means you have more variance from beat to beat within your heart rate, right? BPM or beats per minute is an average of how many heartbeats are happening within that minute. It doesn't tell you the frequency at which they occur, right? So low heart rate variability means less variance, which would be like a metronome. So no variance would be like you have a metronome. It's consistent every single time. Okay, that means it's low heart rate variability. High heart rate variability is that it speeds up, slows down, speeds up, slows down. Okay. Then why is it so important? Because it's a measurement non-invasively of your autonomic nervous system, what your body's subconsciously doing, right? What your autonomic nervous system controls is a significant amount of your functions on a day-to-day basis, right? Very high percentage of what's going on. What heart rate variability looks at, it actually looks at the vagus nerve, as you see there on the right side, the cranial nerve 10. That's a vagus nerve, which innervates majority of your organ systems, right? So it is your controller of your rest and digest system, right? So your sympathetic is your fight or flight. The parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest, your ability to slow down, be calm in those type of areas. We're finding a much bigger role for the vagus nerve in many different areas too that are very predominant. It also regulates, has a huge role in regards to regulation of inflammation with the inflammatory reflex, as well as they're doing stimulation, electrical stimulation of implanting various sensors into the carotid area where the vagus nerve kind of follows the carotid artery. And you're stimulating that, it actually helps very serious health conditions such as epilepsy, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and Alzheimer's. We're seeing a lot of progression. And you look at some of the published research and patents, you're looking at a significant amount of companies that are starting to be able to patent this type of information and type of products to be able to impact these things. They're showing a lot of good research from there. So another question that I typically get is, I've been measuring HRV for a little bit. My one app says I'm my HRV is 8, the other one says that it's 60, and the other one says it's 120. Like, why are they all so different, right? Essentially what it comes down to is that it's all the same statistic that they're using. They're just multiplying it in a different way, right? It's all fundamentally comes down to the same number. It's just some are patent values that you can't reproduce from there, which is why a couple of people have changed from certain things initially, because they wanted to protect their scientific evidence as to why things are going on, right? So the statistic, which you look at literature, if you look at heart rate variability literature, you want to see the Rmssd value. This is what everything necessarily is based upon. Okay, this is the calculation. You don't have to memorize it. It's it's just what it is. What it is. It's more confusing, but what we find with this specific value, that this is the vagal influence onto the heart. This is the vagus nerve's influence onto the heart, because the vagus nerve starts in the central location and branches out to everything. So we can measure its effect on the rest of the body by looking at its influence in the heart, which gives us indication of our parasympathetic nervous system activity. The other one that's less common that's used in regards to applications and tools is something called high frequency. And we'll see examples of this later on. But the reason why it's not used much is you need a longer measurement time in order to do so. But it's another important value that you see in regards to measurement of the parasympathetic nervous system, just to give you a heads up as to some of the information coming. So why Rmssd? Two major reasons is, one, it allows for ultra short readings. In certain populations, it actually only need a minute, right, to be able to do so, compared to the other ones, like SDNN, which takes up to 24 hours to get specific values, right? Also, it's the least affected by your breathing rate. So one of the best ways to activate your parasympathetic nervous system in an acute situation where you're going through stress in the moment is by doing various breathing patterns. Right, so people will do this and breathe in a way to activate their parasympathetic nervous system, will increase their HRV. What we find is this statistic, if you change your breathing patterns, it doesn't necessarily influence this as much as other statistics, right? So it's independent of your breathing rate. Here's an example of the statistics, right? So you have the last 3 columns on your right there. Elite HRV, HRV for training, and bioforce were all different applications that were measuring HRV. And these are all the numbers they came out with the same Rmssd value. Again, they just multiplied it in a different way. But fundamentally, if you can determine what the algorithm is, it all comes back to the same statistic. So what does this all mean to the health and wellness? This is our ability to adapt to stress, right? HRV lets us know our ability to adapt to our environment and be resilient against it. So high heart rate variability, or more variance in your heart rate, specifically at rest, is an increased ability to maintain homeostasis in the response to a stressor, right? So we want to maintain our internal environment. We don't want everything fluctuating like right crazy. We want our blood glucose controlled in a certain way, or our blood pressure in a certain way when it comes on to various stressors. And then a low heart rate variability is our decreased capacity to maintain homeostasis. And what we see is that stress is accumulative. It doesn't necessarily, you deal with one stress at a time. Oh, I have a sickness, I'll deal with that. I'm working out, I'm going to deal with this. Everything kind of compiles on one another, right? Illness, poor diet, exercise, emotional, social, all these things kind of compile together. So, how much stress is enough when it comes to exercise? Do we need to do a lot or a little, right? What is too much? Are we doing too much in regards to things? Are there too many things on our plate that we have to be able to remove? Is the stress that we introduced good or bad? And how do we know this, right? So what usually this time I'm in a lecture hall, and usually what I ask people is tell me different, positive and negative stresses. What's good stress versus bad stress? Good stress you hear is exercise, you hear meditation, you hear healthy foods and that type of stuff. And then, what's bad stress? And you talk about, it's financial stress, or sugar, or all these type of things. And I said, I completely agree. I go, absolutely, these are all great examples. But would you fight it if I said that you can switch those columns and it would be the exact same thing? Exercise can be bad stress, a clean diet can be bad stress. All that type of stuff can be negative for you, as well as having financial stress can be positive, right? And what research shows is that is absolutely the case. Now, why is this and how does this happen, right? One of the big quotes I like to say when it comes to, say, performance wellness, again, we're personal trainers in this specific conversation here, is that, There's no such thing as overtraining. There's only under recovering, right? You hear this a lot in the high performance realms, right? You can't overtrain, but you can under recover. That's the problem where the problems exist, right? This is stemmed from the founder of the term stress. His name's Hans Selye. He's the guy that literally coined the term stress. And what he said is not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but what our body perceives is the problem, okay? So how can something like a financial stress or these type of stressors be bad, be good for us at specific points? So this is one of my favorite studies to be able to show, okay? So this really hits home in regards to looking at stress and how it can be helpful, but also hurt you as well. The U.S. That's the study, but the U.S. Department of Energy produced a study in 1991 that collected data from 1980 to 1988 on nuclear shipyard workers. Okay, so they looked at these people that were exposed to various degrees of radiation over a period of time. So there was a sample size of almost 71,000 shipyard workers, where 32,000 experienced no radiation at all during their time of work, where about 37,000 experienced different doses of radiation, right? So there's something called milligrays, which is the measure of radiation. So 10,000 were exposed to about less than 5 milligrays of radiation, which is kind of like an X-ray of a small body part per year, right, for their entire work life. The other were exposed to 5 or more, which could be multiple X-rays of a specific area, or bigger depending on the size of things. So they were exposed to these for their entire work life, and they collect this information and health information from all of these workers from 1957 to 1981. So we're like almost 25 years. And what they looked at is the health records to determine the rates of cancer, circulatory diseases, respiratory diseases, digestive system diseases, nervous system, or pretty much any kind of ill health. They collect the data. And as you see, where we're going with things, they didn't necessarily expect to find what they wanted to find. What they wanted to find was that more exposure to radiation had worse health effects, and they wanted to figure out what dosage is safe. What they found is that the highest exposed group, so meaning the 5 milligrays or more, had a 24% reduction in all-cause mortality, which accumulated on average, as a group, they lived about 3 years longer, right? Favorite 2 quotes: high dose workers demonstrated significantly lower circulatory, respiratory, and all-cause mortality than the unexposed workers. In addition, the cohort had lower rates of the most radiation-sensitive cancers, like leukemia, hematopoietic cancers, than the controls, right? So how is this possible, right? It's the dose-response relationship. Just as we know when it comes to health and wellness of various exercise things, be able to, if there's a certain amount of stress that your body can recover from, it's actually a positive stress. Okay, so we need to redefine what stress means. What we talk about stress is not simple as good versus bad. You can't just say that exercise is a good stress, right? Yes, exercising may 60 minutes a day for 7 days a week is great, but 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, very high strenuous, we know there's health concerns that come with that. So what is the dose response relationship for various things? And without stress, we cannot adapt and grow. We know this when it comes to muscle physiology, right? You have to be able to break down, you have to be able to stress the muscles for it to be able to adapt to the stresses that you put on it and grow to happen, right? As a very basic sense, you break your muscle down by exercising, body goes, I don't want that to happen again. So let me build things a little bit stronger here. So next time it won't necessarily break down, right? You're building this adaptation into the body, but you need to measure these things, right? We have those things in regards to our strength and conditioning or our aerobic fitness. We know VO2 max, we know mile times, we know 1 rep maximums, but what about health? What about wellness, right? We don't have an easy, accessible measure to be able to do that. So how do we do this? How do we measure heart rate variability accurately and in a very easy environment? So the most clinical way, we'll start from the most valid way, and then we'll go down to validity as we go through. The most scientifically valid way to get heart rate variability is something called the Halter Monitor. So this is medical doctors on the right side. Typically we get this if there's certain heart conditions. You have, want to see if there's certain attacks that happen or arrhythmias that happen certain times. You usually wear this anywhere from about 24 hours to 3 days, somewhere in that range, either by a cardiologist or a regular medical doctor to determine heart conditions, which you can get heart rate variability from, but it's typically not a part of the process. Or you get the more commercialized type of, I wouldn't say a Halter monitor, but something very similar to get an ECG signal, which is a company called First Beat, which is a 2-lead ECG, which you see there on the left side. It gets very accurate HRV values on a continuous basis, right? The only bad thing is that there's so much information, so much noise, it doesn't necessarily make it very applicable to people like us, right? So it's more information than we necessarily require, and it provides, and you need a lot of context around what the numbers actually mean. Second is obviously what was significantly important in regards to the commercialization of heart rate variability to applications now is a single measurement, typically done in the morning. This can be done accurately, scientifically accurate by a heart rate strap, a finger sensor there, which you see in the morning, like a pulse oximeter, things like that. Or now there's an application called HRV for training by Marco Altini that actually scientifically validated metric by using your camera phone. So very easy to be able to do so. What it kind of looks like on your phone, it kind of looks like this. They kind of give you some numbers and, this is higher than baseline, or you're maybe more sympathetic or parasympathetic today. And they kind of give you readiness to this and that. So it's more of a single measurement, provides high accuracy, very easy to be able to do so. But again, it doesn't provide a lot of context around, what is causing this to go up or down. It just tells me that you're at this specific point. It doesn't tell me how you got there or where you're going. Another very popular method in more the psychotherapy type of realm, I've seen this, a lot of nurses do this as well, is biofeedback, HRV live in the moment, right? As you do various breathing techniques or various type of psychotherapy interventions, is this improving someone's ability to get into a parasympathetic state? When we talk about the Rmssd value and the high frequency, this is where the high frequency necessarily comes in. If you look at the picture on the right, they may have very similar Rmssd values given over a period of time, right? I think this is, it's almost 2 minutes of a reading over this specific picture. They may have very similar Rmssd values, but their high frequency would be very different. Pretty much high frequency is how much your kind of band goes up and down comparatively to more of a squiggly type of up and down, right? So that would be low frequency versus high frequency. So that gives a little bit deeper of an indication, which is why a lot of people want, this kind of high frequency, low frequency information as well when it comes to their HRV readings. Lastly, your wearable products. This is the least valid, but they provide a lot of context, right? So you can get sleep, you can get activity, you can put in subjective responses, you can put all that type of stuff. Some are better than others. But these are definitely becoming more of the rave. This is what I'd say these type of wearables, which in the center is Whoop, to the left is BioStrap, and to the right is the Oura Ring. These are the Fitbit on steroids, right? So they give you so much more information and more detailed information than maybe more than you need. But if you're really looking into like getting to why my body is the way that it is, this gives significant amount of information for you from there. So why do we necessarily need to use HRV? I think personally, we understand now that it's a very important metric for yourself to understand how your body's doing. But as personal trainers, this is, you got to think of business as well. How can I use this for my clients? What are the most important things to be able to kind of focus on, or why would I use this? So the first one, it makes you a better coach. Whether you're a personal trainer or this or that, like you're people's coach, right? Like these people, like their family life, their work life, their stresses, the things that they go through, the birthdays, you're pretty invested in these people. So you're not just a personal trainer, you're not just a kinesiologist, not just this, you're this person's coach, right? I'm very sure almost all of you have given some sort of advice that's been not exercise, right? Whether it's sleep, whether it's recovery, whether it's hydration, with whatever it may be, right? So that's why I say it makes you a better coach, right? And that's why we got in this, is I want to be able to why are people there? They want to be healthy, right? They want to be healthy, they want to look good, all that type of stuff. This makes you a better coach, right? And in order to do that, you got to think holistically of these people, right? You can't just think of purely, biology. Like you got to think of body and mind connection. And right now, the best model for us to understand is the biopsychosocial model, right? You have to be able to at least tackle these areas of health and wellness. I think everyone knows how biological health is important, right? When we talk about biological health, we talk about genetics, physical activity, diet, recovery, immunity, those type of things, age, all those things go into our biological health. I think, in the last a little while, we're really starting to understand how the importance of psychological health is for people, for us to be able to understand of our emotions, our feelings, our goals, our values of what's going on. It's super important for us to understand, to be able to define what health is. It's not just someone's biological being. And then I think obviously COVID has necessarily showed us as to what social life, a lack of social life can impact our health, right? And some people strived in it, and some people, it was like the end of the world was coming, and that played into, various people's conditions. And where I see heart rate variability, I see it right in the center. It gives us an understanding of the balance of all these. Are we doing well, or is there something that's missing? So I love HRV in regards to simplistic. It gives you a value how someone's doing, right? In the most opportune times of how we capture these measurements. How is this person doing from a biopsychosocial perspective, from all areas? Because all areas impact someone's health and well-being, and is represented through heart rate variability. The tough part is don't confuse simple with easy. It's not easy to understand as to why someone's heart rate variability is low, right? But we have to be able to kind of dive in, and I'll kind of give you some resources for us to start to be able to quantify all these areas to determine, what is the best bang for my buck for this person? Can I address certain things in regards to someone's sleep, physical activity, exercise, or do they necessarily need to see some sort of counselor or psychotherapist to be able to kind of deal with some of the psychosocial issues? Are those the biggest factors impacting someone's health? So that's the first big reason as to why I use HRV. Second big reason for me is to hold you and your clients accountable to progress. I want to know that I'm making people better, right? This is why I always gravitated towards, quantitative type of information, whether it's using the FMS, SFMA. Hey, it may not be perfect, but at least lets me know that, pre and post test, and we do it enough, you understand what they're looking for and what you can do, right? I want to quantify, I want to know that I'm actually improving people, right? And as well, it holds your client accountable. Are they doing what they're supposed to do in order to optimize health and wellness, right? Is the plan doing what it's supposed to do, right? The plan you set out, if you're doing your part, they're doing their part, are things going the way that it should? If not, why, right? Then we start to dig deeper. Is it good enough to do what you're doing, or is there something more that needs to be understood? Second, is the client doing what they're supposed to do? If they're there working hard and everything on your end is you're doing your plan that you're supposed to do, but they're sabotaging the plan, whether it be, going out and partying and drinking alcohol, excessively and saying they're going to this, therapist, but not, or whatever it may be that you kind of recommended to do it. Like, they're accountable. They're paying money to be able to be healthy with you. So why not necessarily hold them accountable to make sure that they're doing their part, right? They have to be an active component of their health and well-being. And then, are you doing what's right for the client? If you set out a plan and everything's going great, and they're doing their part, right, and nothing's improving, we have to reevaluate what's going on, right? There's no change in things. We got to be able to understand as to why. If things get worse or better, we have to know why as well. So it holds you accountable to you and your client in regards to the progress. Here's an example of a client of mine, actually, over a 9-month period. They give you an example of what's going on. Came to me. She's a high power executive that had some chronic pain, but also chronic fatigue stuff. And I suggested, let's start doing some heart rate variability. This is a single day measurement. So these are single day measurements over 9 months. So it started off very basic. And usually when you introduce the various things, it's super basic. Minimum, get out for a 30-minute walk because you're not doing anything now, right? You talk about focusing on sleep, like just super basic things that, healthy people need to be able to do, right? And also, I think I included the 5-minute journal at that point as well. Something to do, again, that indicated for me that she needed some positivity, right? So as we see, she started with her HRV. Don't worry about the numbers to what it means, but it's around 55 her average when it started. The first couple months, absolutely, right on point, right? We had some dips, we understood why, and we got to a point. The dashes is where we lost contact. She felt good, she laughed, didn't, as some people just drop off the face of the earth. And that's what happened, right? And then she contacted me and said, hey, things are not going well. I said, okay, you see that horizontal line? She stopped taking readings. Like, okay, let's take it again. As she started taking the readings, you see there, it starts dipping down towards that 55 again. 55 for her with this specific metric is a problem. This is where things are an issue. So we kind of go, okay, let's do some things. And you see it goes up and down, blah, 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 blah. Through email, didn't see her in person. Then, things started to go haywire and she started getting more medical interventions. So that's where the purple line is. Things just started getting worse and worse and worse. And you can see she's right back to 55 out of an average. The blue line is when we started back up again. And the same thing, it's super basic stuff. And to her, this was reinforcement of saying, man, I didn't realize, and just doing these things on a continuous basis, it's just feedback, right? It may have not have changed, but at least it was a step in the right direction. You know, this minimal amount of effort from her part had a big and like a world of difference for her. And she felt it. Like her good, if you look at her values, were in the 70s, right? Low 60s, high 70s. That was her great, feeling awesome. When she's down in the 50s, she knows the problem. Now, when anytime she takes her numbers on a consistent basis, she can tell where she's at, right? Not only subjectively what she feels inside, but now objectively as well, right? Super powerful for people like that. The next and kind of a key point as well about this presentation is someone's recovery. Now, there's no one metric that'll tell you they're recovered. Like it's not possible. There's not just one thing that says, oh, I'm recovered or not. Doesn't matter what score, whatever it comes involved. There is no one metric that can determine that. And the reason why is because you cannot separate the body and mind when it comes to these type of feelings and this type of something like recovery. So you need subjective and objective information, right? You can't just have pure numbers. You have to understand what this person's motivation, their fatigue levels, and all that stuff, their perception of what's going on. Super important when it comes to recovery, right? So from an objective standpoint, what's the most important recovery tool? Sleep. Like we know this. I'm sure the amount of people that I've heard that read a sleep book during the quarantine was astronomical. So I'm sure a majority of people here have now read a sleep book by now. But so we know how important sleep is for people, right? And so I personally have the BioStrap, and I'll explain this to why later, which measures my HRV every 5 minutes for a minute throughout the night, right? So it starts to see like how my body objectively is starting to recover. Right. So I have two examples literally from this week that I went through. Right. So as you can see, both of them relatively started at the same. Right. We're looking at, so this is their value. They come up with Rmssd. Right. So their value on average, I went to sleep around 50. OK, so that was my HRV. If you look at the one on the left, it only recovered to 60. So 5 milliseconds. That was the only difference on average. Right. When I got up, there's certain things that I do in regards to measurements. I felt fatigued, I felt tired, all that type of stuff. I understand, like, and then I started to sync my band and start to see what objectively it said. Then I looked at the other side. I started around the same, around the 50, but then I recovered up into the 80s, right? And I just felt different, right? You start to feel, and if you see the last little bit of information there, you start to see the HRV starting to increase. That's my natural mechanism started to kick in to start to wake up. Right. So it's like I was feeling like $1 million when this reading came in. Right. It doesn't necessarily, I don't expect to feel great, but it gives me some understanding of what to do. And I start to look at various contextual things that happened in the last little while that have led to something like this type of feeling. So my objective and subjective information need to be a part of recovery scores. So you cannot separate the body and mind. You got to think of both when it comes to recovery. Super important. However you measure it, you measure it. But I think HRV is a significant metric that needs to be measured during, if you want to understand your recovery. And lastly here is, we're in the business of health and wellness, right? So it has to come, there has to be some monetary understanding of how does this help me financially, right? The last thing is added sources of revenue. So there's three major things that you can necessarily do in regards to adding more dollars into your pocket as well as doing HRV, not only helping your clients and getting great information, but also how is it beneficial for you, right? So you can become an affiliate of various things, right? You can buy products at a very discounted rate and be able to sell them to your clients, right? So there's that aspect of it all. You can also, if you're a very big into social media and like an influencer, as the kids these days say, the gray hair is making me seem a little bit older these days, but if you're anything like that and you have the ability to sell products, you can definitely make money on that type of stuff, especially the scientifically valid ones, right? Second is it's in addition to your programming. So you can add of saying, hey, if you want to measure your sleep, you measure this, blah, 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 make a package of, adding $20, $30 a month or whatever, whatever it is to be able to kind of add that stuff, because it's going to make your program significantly better. Like if someone told me that for $20 a month of what I'm already spending is going to make my programs specifically tailored to me, and I get so much more information in regards to my sleep, my well-being, and my health, it's a no-brainer, right? It's pretty obvious. Last is if something happens again like this. Again, no one saw this thing really coming last 6 months. 6 months, geez, from the start of in March. A year ago, we'll say. No one saw that it would be something like this, is that it can add value for telehealth and online services consultation. The amount of consultations I did during the pandemic was unreal, just because of people like they want to know their health and well-being, and they can't necessarily see anybody, right? So people, this adds a bunch of information. I got a bunch, different people at different apps and different things, but I used, a questionnaire as well as their information to determine, how to best help them, right? So if something like this happens again, this provides value, right? To me, I found it very hard to justify people paying my hourly rate to just have a conversation with them about their exercises, right? To me, I didn't see that, so I didn't necessarily go into that. However, if I had other information of how to be able to, improve sleep, how to be able to improve, breathing patterns, decrease stress, all that type of stuff, that to me, that's a value, right? It doesn't have to be an hour with me, but it could be 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And that's a service that I think that would be very valuable, right? So that's what I did. And it was something that you could think in the future, that if something happens, you always have a backup source of revenue for there. So how are we doing for time? Okay, good. Last little bit here. Biggest mistakes I see with HRV. There's 6. First one, a high HRV reading is always good, and a low HRV reading is always bad. This is kind of, again, when you look at the HRV as we had last time in regards to the high frequency, low frequency, on the left side, this person can be stressed, erratic, a bunch of things going on, but the left seems to be more that coherent type of heart rate that we want to be able to see. So there's more, this is where the art meets the science. The science says things fine, but your intuition, your gut feeling also is a part of the process, right? Art, science, objective, subjective, all that type of stuff, right? So don't think that someone has a great heart rate variability means everything's A-okay. Taking only one measurement. You can't just walk into a place on a Thursday afternoon at 12:40 and get an HRV and think that's your value. It's not happening, right? I did stress tests and blood pressure readings for a very long time. The amount of people who have white coat syndrome in regards to high blood pressure just because they're in front of a doctor, right? And I expected the same thing with HRV stuff. So don't think that one HRV reading is saying, oh, that's my HRV, I guess I'm stressed today, right? Doesn't take into context anything else, which is why they want to do measurements during sleep or first thing in the morning, because that should be either unconscious state, or right when you wake up should be your most rested part of the day, right? Only take HRV on good days. You went out 2 o'clock, had to get up at 5 for work, and no, I don't want to have a bad reading, so I just won't take it today, right? We can't have that. We have to know the good and the bad. Like, where's the fluctuations, where all that type of stuff. I remember as a part of a group, and all of us were taking HRVs, and we went as a company to have some drinks, and all of us were taking snapshots of our HRV and sending to each other of how big our scores decreased and things like that. So you can't just take it on good days. You got to be as consistent as possible with these values for it to mean anything. It's not necessarily the one snapshot today that's important. It's the trends of where things are going. There's only one reason why my heart rate variability fluctuates. Right? I had a case study, a 40-year-old nurse from the US that said, I'm doing my residence breathing, but my HRV is not improving. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, you're a nurse, so you're a shift worker. Yes. Okay, so he works long hours, inconsistent, doesn't sleep well. How's your diet? I usually take out food. I don't eat very healthy. Okay, how's your physical activity? Well, I'm on my feet all the time, and I don't necessarily do a lot of physical activity. Okay, well, how's your social life? I have a few friends here, but I'm alone most of the time. Like, there's so many things that can influence your heart rate. The breathing's not going to fix all these things. Like, I'm sorry. So I didn't say it that way, but there's more things that come in, right? There's more things that are stressing her body than be able to do with just breath work, right? So there's not just one thing, it's everything that fluctuates HRV. HRV during the day or during exercise is useful. As of right now, it is not useful to do HRV during the day or during exercise. During one reason, there's no context around what's going on. Are you in a meeting? Are you exercising? Are you thinking about something you're not supposed to think about? Are you stressed about a meeting coming up or whatever it may be, right? That you have to have all those things to understand why the HRV values are the way that it is. And during exercise, it's extremely hard to get accurate HRV value during exercise due to motion and respiration rate changes. So we kind of throw those out from there, and it kind of goes into my next point. Just because it measures HRV doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate. So from wearable devices in particular, due to technology limitations, if it says it does HRV during the day, it does not, right? It is some sort of weird thing that they've came up with to show HRV, right? It's hard enough to get heart rate to be as accurate than it is HRV. So don't necessarily think that, HRV during the day, oh, this is my true HRV, this is my stress levels. Nope, it's not. As of right now, it does not do it. It doesn't. And if it has, I'm pretty sure Apple, Amazon, or Polar would have figured it out by now, right? So all these other companies, now, the other ones I said, now granted, Whoop is not a small company anymore. It just got valued at $1.2 billion, but any of these other kind of newer technology companies, I'd be very surprised if they have, the more resources, the ability to be able to do that. Good. I think I did it on good time. Summary quickly. Good. More variability in a general sense is increased homeostatic capacity, your ability to maintain a stable, healthy environment in the response to stressors. We need to redefine what stress is. You understand that not certain stresses are good and stresses are bad. They're interchangeable. It all depends on the dose response relationship. HRV is great for holding you and your client accountable. Like, to me, like, I don't want to I'm not in it for the money. I want to help people, right? So I want to make sure that I'm doing good for this person. And this helps me kind of guide my plan. And then use the best monitor for you. If you want to do a daily single measurement because you have more athletes and more consistent people, perfect, great. If you want it more wearable because people like technology a lot more and kind of you want to know more information about sleep, then use that one. Whatever is best for your business model and your clientele, you use that one. So a couple add-ons. We'll send all this information. I send this information to Chad and the team, so you'll have this information. But again, I'm the co-founder and the instructor of the Foundations of Heart Rate Variability course. You get 100% discount. 100%, that'd be great. $100 discount for the Heart Rate Variability course, which comes about $250. Again, 4,000 people have taken it. We've got a bunch of information there for everybody in regards to resources, handouts. Use the code PTN100. I don't know if it's in there right now. I just got off it wasn't working as of this morning, so I'll just make sure. It expires at the end of next month, so we got a month to be able to use that. And again, the Foundations it's the science and the practical application of heart rate variability that is comprehensive yet very accessible for you. Second is that I've consulted with a company called BioStrap, which we use in my tech company that I founded. Which is a great wearable device, scientifically valid. I stand by their metrics and what they measure. Everything they always try to do is with science first and fanciness later. So very science forward people. They just came out with their brand new sensor. It's called the BioStrap Evo. So you have a 10% discount using Altius 10, which is my company. They just ended their discount for the pre-orders earlier in the month. But both of the HRV course, as well as this, a 30-day money-back guarantees. You don't like it, send it back. They're great with that type of customer service, both sides of things. So two good things to be able to check out. Lastly, when we talk about the biopsychosocial model and figuring out, which area does my client need to focus in, if you're curious about that, I've co-founded a company called HealthQB. Right. And what we're trying to do is quantify as best we possibly can the biopsychosocial model. We're beta testing right now in various clinics, specializing right now in chronic pain, to look at the biopsychosocial models of people that are in that specific condition and quantifying that compared to, we just finished research at UBC with the 54 participants that were chronic pain and not. And we found it will be published soon, but we found absolutely great results in regards to what specific biopsychosocial markers are indicated for people with chronic pain without. Right. So if you want to know more about us and what we're doing in that sense, you can register to HealthQB. We're looking to launch our first version of our product sometime in 2021, probably second quarter in that sense. So you head to the website and check it out from there. It's very basic right now. Again, we're in the beta stage of things. But if you're interested at all and you can just send us an email from there. So that's all I have. Thank you so much. Again, I know it's time out of your day. I know that you could be doing other things, and I greatly appreciate you guys being here. And then Chad, I'll open up to questions that you have. I didn't check the chat or anything like that. So, but thank you again.
Awesome. Greg, I just want to say thanks, dude. That was a lot of information in a short period of time. You did a great job cramming that all in, dude.
Oh, I know. It was 45. Yeah, usually an hour and 15-minute presentation to 45. So I hope I didn't speak too fast for people, but.
No, you're speaking fast but clearly, which was awesome because you got it covered. It gave us some time too, because if you didn't go that fast, we wouldn't have all this time that we need right now. Because I do have a lot of stuff that I'd like to cover with you.
Absolutely.
We may go into a tiny bit of overtime. We'll be respectful of other people's time. Obviously, if anyone needs to log off, this is being recorded. So if you missed some portion of this at the end, Greg, are you okay if we go 5 minutes after the hour?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm good for the day. I work from home on Thursday, so you can spend as much time as you need.
First things first, I don't think you have a whole lot of gray hair going on in there. Either that or you are a stockholder in Hair Club for Men.
Yeah, no, it's the difference with the
Just
big
for
thing,
men.
the difference from a year and a half to now. I think that's the big thing. So but thank you, Chad, for saying that. That's nice.
I think the comparison's obvious. So more importantly, so a couple of really important things there. I mean, I first of all, I really love the direction you've taken your career. I have, like I said, we've never met, but I've actually seen it evolve, and I've seen the direction you've taken it, and the integrated health component to the direction of your career is very obvious to me, and where I think the direction of the industry is truly going, and especially from just a basic performance mentality. And I don't mean like high performance, I mean waking up and feeling great, knowing when today is a great day to step on the accelerator, like to accelerate a little bit and push, right? Where another day might be like, you know what, squeeze in a nap today, squeeze in a caffeine nap if you need to.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
so
that's
I think
that's really cool. Big.
Yeah. And it's very obvious, that you've really worked hard to go down that path. I had not yet heard of that particular strap, so we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So first things first, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but I have a psych degree as well. That was my first degree. So Hans Selye and the general adaptation syndrome was like one of the first things I was ever taught. And then when I saw it actually transfer over into the periodization models and how that model's been adapted, he's basically the father of periodization without intentionally being so. And that's all about stress adaptation, right? So this speaks very highly to that. One of the first things I want to talk about, and something that you spoke about really quickly, is the difference between bad stress, good stress, and bad stress. And that whole idea of eustress and actually having the kind of stress in your life that actually, like that whole Yerkes and Dops and inverted U, right? There's a certain amount of stress that's beneficial to you. And then after the fact, it's obviously like very detrimental to your health. And I mean, very clearly from the study that you've shown, a clear correlation to comorbidities and possible like health related issues, right? So the question I want to ask is like, how would HRV, for example, affect people? Because as we know, we're in an industry where there's a lot of people that are dysmorphic, right? They have very skewed thought process associated with their body, and therefore they often keep beating themselves down in the gym. They keep doing more work, working harder, adding more caffeine, doing all these different things in order to be able to like get to the gym, put in more work time, when obviously there's time to, as you had indicated in the quote I've seen many times, there's a time and a place to recover, right? We got very few people overtrain, but a lot of people under recover. So can you speak to how body dysmorphia and HRV and how people could link that together and make their clients understand how important it is to come off the throttle from time to time?
Totally. When you talk about body dysmorphia, I mean, obviously it's a big problem now, and having two young children that kind of growing up in our technology age, I'm very concerned, obviously, as they kind of grow up and the quality of their mental health as they kind of grow up with things, with all these images that going around of people, always being happy and all that type of stuff. And so, you see it as a big issue, and people with body dysmorphia, it's a chronic thing that's there on the mind all the time, right? It's not to a point of like, oh, I can turn it off and turn it on. It's like, you're always thinking about, oh, how do I look, how this and that. And it's a chronic stress. It's very similar to something like a financial stress, right? You're talking about other stress that's always constantly on your mind, kind of always picking at you, whether, consciously or subconsciously from there, right? So what happens is these people are running on close to empty, right? And so I developed two terms that we use in that health QV assessment. Is there's physiological resilience and then physiological adaptability, right? So physiological resilience can be to my explanation saying you can deal with all sorts of stress, right? You have a high ceiling when it comes to that stuff. But what the problem is that you may have, you may be super fit and all that type of stuff, but there's so many stresses in your life that your resilience starts to decrease. You're starting getting close to that ceiling, what's going on, right? It doesn't leave you a lot of room to be resilient to other things, to be able to optimize your training goals, to get to what you want to be able to do, to your weight loss goals, to whatever it is, to be happy, all of that, right? To be able to kind of put work in. So it makes that window very small, right? Of what you can handle in a specific day. So all type of, and you look at the research, you look at, depression and PTSD and anxiety and all that type of stuff with heart rate variability, you see altered, they call it, like an altered nervous system, like the autonomic nervous system load is off the charts. because it's just constantly on their mind, pecking at them consistently. Like the reason why, exercise is considered usually good stress, because you can choose not to exercise. You just stop doing it, right? It's more of a very controllable type of stress, where you have the uncontrolled stress, which again, talk about the, Hansel and all that type of stuff that he talks about. The uncontrolled stress is stuff that's constantly picking at you all the time, whether it's how do I look, or again, like I fight with my wife, go home today, and all these type of things. And it gets you constantly picking away. So that accumulation of that stress over a day may be more significant than what you did with that exercise. So it plays a huge part in that overall sense. That the tough part with HRV, as I said, it's simple, but it's not easy. It can pick up that there's a problem. You may not know the person has that type of thought process, but as you start to know the person more and get into it, there's some sort of negation. And the powerful thing is that if a person has the ability to change it and to see what it does to heart rate variability, it's very empowering for them.
Awesome. So my next question for you, Greg, is sort of like real quick. If we look at one of the quotes, one of the things you mentioned is talking about being a better coach. And I can't tell you how dead on the head you are with this. And it's important to realize that part of coaching is finding ways to individualize the training session. And that there's so many different ways you can do that, in terms of like personal training. But one of the key ones is being overlooked all the time is how do we individualize people's recovery? And how do we look at people's life outside of the gym? And this is one of those easy ways to be hands-on with the client and empower the client with their own information. So one of the things I would like you to talk about is like, how do you address and how do you help clients understand the importance? What's your way of integrating this into their lives? Because as you well know, there's a difference between what they want and what they need. But at the same time, we have to address the fact that what they want is an important psychological driver. So how do we get them to buy into the HRV process and to take recovery as an important part of what we're going to do for them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it becomes to the individual stories, right? And so you talk about, we talked about this before, Chad, about the building a rapport with people and understanding kind of like what their motivating factors are of like, why are they there with you? Why are they paying for your services, right? What is going on that they need help with from there, right? There's something that they need that we're helping them with. So to get the conversation started, I always explain to them how HRV can help those areas that we're looking for, right? In regards to that. And typically for me, I have a practice significantly to do with chronic pain and kind of chronic type of issues. From there is, this gives me indications of, from all different areas of again, like, I sometimes see myself as a counselor rather than a kinesiologist or soon to be an osteopath, capacity practitioner. Sometimes you're just a counselor to them, be able to talk what's going on with their lives. To me, I always kind of put the, onus on them of saying, hey, listen, my job is not to fix you. My job is to kind of guide you through this process, but you have to have an active component to this, right? You have to be able to be a part of this process because you're only here with me 1 hour a week, right? What are you doing the rest of the times? I don't know. I can tell you what to do, but I won't know until I see you. Again, that's the majority of people I don't see every week, but we have to make sure that we're on the right path. We're making our time together most efficient as possible, right? How can we get the most out of our hour together to work towards your goals, right? Whether it's recovery, whether it's this, whether it's that. And I always tell, people, we have to build kind of like, again, when it comes to chronic pain, we got to build a resilience. Chronic pain is not a biomechanical, purely situation, right? If it was, it'd be solved by now. It's truly a biopsychosocial condition where all these areas and all these stressors impact how these people experience pain. So, doing a little bit of pain science as well. So again, using my population as an example, understanding what pain is too much stress in the system is the simplest way of explaining to them. So we have to be able to remove those stressors and figure out, we have to make you more adaptable to your environment and more resilient to your environment. And this is the way to be able to do so. And again, I use multiple different ways of doing so. Some people are like, great, I want to measure everything, right? Like, let's get on this. And this is where I introduce necessarily the BioStrap and talk about, hey, let's do this. Or, they just, they're kind of bought in, but they don't want that information. They kind of want to be less invasive. Then we just do the single reading in the morning and kind of track that over periods of time. So to me, it's that individualization of why they're there. You got to figure out, why are they in your office, right? Yeah, they're in pain, but that's not the main reason why they're there. You want to help them in a specific way, right? Whether it's I want to play with my grandkids, or I want to go back to playing golf, or like, that's the reason why they're in their office, not just because they're in pain.
Totally. So, I'm just going to go to the wearables a little bit right now, Greg, to sort of finish this up. And those are great points you're bringing up, by the way, and incredibly important, because at the end of the day, people do need to take responsibility for their own health, and we need to coach and empower them. But so therefore, in my mind, the key ingredient is making sure we meet them where they're at, look for the right opportunities. And when their health, when they're sleep, when they're not feeling great, they tend to get Dumbo-sized ears. Like, how do I feel better? You know, when athletes are injured, their ears get really big, and all of a sudden those corrective exercises you've always wanted to do with them, they're now doing them 5 times a day when you wouldn't do them once. I could give you some Todd Bertuzzi type stories, for example, that were early in my career. And the guy ended up with a low back injury and then contacted me from Detroit to get some help, right? Yeah. Those type of things. So, you know, here's what I want to talk about next. Like, so looking at the research, and there's, again, that I know you quoted a recent piece of research where the HRV for training app was used, and they use PPG, which is to your point, right? It's just the back of it's using your cell phone. Just quickly, so convenience is important, right? So to get buy-in, to get adherence, convenience and simplicity is always like game changer number one to get people on board. So if they're going to use that type of app, which is like a $14.99 app, which is a small purchase when you compare it to all the other things that they're paying for in personal training and all those other, you know, health hacks that they've attempted.
Yeah.
And I know this from the research, but I'd like for you to speak to it a little bit. Like, what's the key ingredient to having success if you're going to use your cell phone and an app like HRV for training, for example, to now become, I would say, resilient and aware of where your HRV readings are?
Yeah, it's consistency is the key, right? So consistency is the key is that you can't, you know, the more days you do it, the better in a specific reading, as well as it should be relatively the same time, right? You know, it's you know, you look at research for multiple different things. The first step to being, you know, healthy with things is consistency, right? You look at sleep metrics, like one of the most important things that research is now showing is the consistency of your sleep onset and sleep wake up times, right? That is more than the amount of sleep that you're getting on average, right? Having a consistent schedule is super important for overall health and well-being. And it's the same, you should be taking an approach in regards to other aspects of your life, right? Being consistent with all that. And HRV is super important because you have to be consistent with it. If you wake up at 5 and then 7 and then 9, and then you get up and have a coffee, like, oh crap, I didn't do my HRV, and then you go do it. You know, it doesn't make it really valid for there. You have to be able to get as consistently as possible. What I used to do when I did my single measurement readings, I had a heart rate strap beside my bed. My alarm would go off. I get my heart rate strap, put it on, put the app on, I fall back asleep, right? Because back in the day, I don't know if it does now, but Elite HRV used to have a ding, right? So it'd wake me up again. And I'm like, okay, and then I'm good to go, right? So like that was my every morning, right? And because I didn't want to open my emails and see that and they stress me out or that type of stuff. So try to be as consistent as possible, as restful as possible. With that finger app, I would just close your eyes and just kind of breathe normally, but consistency by far is the biggest.
So 2 things I think I'm taking away from that. One is there's got to be very little movement attached to the reading, correct?
Yeah.
So you pretty much got to be dead still first thing in the morning is the best way to do it.
Yeah. And
that would be true if you were using a heart rate strap as well, to some degree, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Same thing.
Got it. Yeah. And then the second thing I wanted to sort of go into a little bit, just to kind of finish this off, is that what things are people doing on a daily basis? And I know you mentioned this a little bit, but how are things like high intensity, like HIIT training, like how frequently can people do, like on average, in your best guess, like how often can people go hard in the gym, push the envelope? And let's talk about not elite performers, but general population people more so. Like how much can me being 48, you know, a pretty fit dude who likes to push the envelope, really go in and get after it and actually expect to have reasonable HRV and to actually like clearly be optimizing my ability to function in other parts of my life that are incredibly important to me?
Yeah, I mean, that's super highly individual, right? And it comes back to, I mean, different things. And you look at the other external factors with that, right? Now, granted, it's not 7 days a week. That's not necessarily saying that you can do it every single day. But to the point of this is like, you'll say, Chad, you and I do my high intensity interval training. We have the same program. We do it identical. I come home, I read books, I relax, I enjoy my life. I have talked with friends, I sip my tea, I meditate, I go to bed early and all that type of stuff, where you yourself, if you have to then go to a job and then it's a high stress job and you got to do this and then you got to manage people and then you go home and then you have kids and a dog to deal with and then you don't get to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning, you have to wake up at 5 and all that, is that people can necessarily handle a lot less, right? When it comes to high intensity interval training, say you're recovering on a normal basis, anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week seems to be a pretty good marker of things, right? And you would depend the 2 to 3 times on your responses and how you feel, right? Both objectively based on your sleep, your HRV, your heart rate, and all those type of things, but also subjectively. Do you feel productive? Do you feel like you're with it and things like that, right? Because early on when I had my first child, well, I didn't when the first child was born, because I didn't have time to really kind of focus on myself. I was getting up at 3:50 in the morning to be able to kind of focus on myself. So I was getting anywhere from 5 to 5.5 hours of sleep. I did that for a year and a half. Objectively, my data looked pretty good, right? Subjectively, I was losing vision. I couldn't focus on things. I got, as soon as 12 o'clock hit, I was like no good to anything. Right. So you have to take that's the art and the science of things. Science may say things fine, but then down the road, how is that going to impact what's going on? I was adapting well for the time being, but you got to look at the subjective component of it all and understand all of that process as well. So yeah, it's highly dependent, but I think if you're doing everything you possibly can, and you have a normal, human being life, I'd say 2 to 3 times a week from a high hit type perspective is ideal.
Awesome. So guys, real quick here, I'm going to finish this up, but if there's anyone right now in the chat, just if there's any questions for Greg, we'll take a couple of questions if there's anyone there. I know Kim's always very active typing back and forth. If there's anyone who's live, I know there's a bunch of you guys on Facebook right now watching there as well, but if there is any questions, please.
I saw one here from Kim that kind of came through. This can not be a great tool for could this not be a great tool for mental disability at the high athlete level? Will it not speed up operant conditioning, the lack of intrinsic motivators? And this would be, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about that type of, whether it's wearing out or, mental type of stress when it comes to those things. Absolutely. Right. We've had this stuff on professional athletes and hearing some of the stories of, travel and, things like concussions and all that type of stuff in regards to kind of looking at mental health and well-being, all that type of stuff. You start to get a little more context around that. Absolutely. When you talk about mental health, right? Because their biological health may be important, right? It's an important part of what's going on, but you have to look at the holistic nature, very similar to myself, my numbers looked okay, but subjectively, what's going on, right? And how can we necessarily prove those things, right? And this is how kind of Health UB came about, is the fact that we have nothing really to measure on a systemic way to kind of say how people are doing. Like, how is your mood? Are you more excited or more, subdued? Are you happy? Are you sad? And what type of traits do you disengage with people rather than cope with them? Or like, what do you do? Like, what are some things that we can, that live a healthy lifestyle? Are you lonely? Do you have a lot of social support around you? From very basic things that we kind of assess to figure out, how can we help these people from a holistic perspective? But mental health is absolutely with athletes. Like, sometimes you don't necessarily see on the surface, but you definitely see it in their performance, right? People that have these kind of slumps or, off years and things like that, you can't just think it had to do with their off-season training.
Awesome. You can see the question there from Mike.
Once you said you found no connection between pain and HRV's scores, still the same. Great question, Mike. So what I meant by that is the fact that I do not see a correlation between pain and HRV scores in a specific day. So meaning the fact that just because you have a chronic pain doesn't necessarily your HRV is going to be terrible. And also the fact that if your HRV is high, you should not be experiencing no pain, right? So we're kind of go to a little bit deeper values. What we're looking at from the research perspective is, what does HRV look like over the long term? And can that be various indications of chronic pain? And then we look at subjective markers of all that, right? So there's certain things that we haven't, I don't want to necessarily speak to it because we haven't validated yet, but there's certain markers that come with heart rate variability over the long term that actually give very good indication, which is why with the Health QB company, we did a 21-day baseline. It takes about that time to get the right information in order to do that, not just one specific reading. Yeah.
All right. So I'll just finish this up real quick. Now I'll just hand it back over to you to sort of final us off. But You know, Greg, one of the things I find, and I'm like now thinking my way through this a little bit, is that, you know, in my mind, I think to myself, like, if I want to implement something like this with a client, you can only lead a camel to water. You can't make them drink. But my thought process is very simple, is that before I start every training session or a text message every morning, like, hey, what's your HRV rating today? Because our workout, right? Our workout. So even if it's only 2 or 3 times a week, I can start building that habit. Like every time I'm going to train them that day, I do a checklist with my clients. I check in with all my clients first thing in the morning, the day of anyway, via text message. So if I fire off a quick text message and say, hey, what's your HRV rating today? That can then guide my training session. And therefore I'm educating them of the processes that come along with recovery stimulation, parasympathetic stimulation versus sympathetic nervous system stimulation. Be like, hey, look, I'd love to push your envelope today. I know you really want to burn a bunch of calories, but today is a better day for us to go through a great dynamic stretch and some incredible breathing techniques that are going to help you in a lot of different ways anyway. Yeah. If we were to, does that sound like a sensible approach to you that would work well and get a lot of buy-in?
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's nice for the person too, because they feel taken care of, right? You're not just going to hammer them in the ground, even though they feel, you know, their body may be ready to do so. To me, it's like you're kind of taking extra care with the person to figure out what's going on. And I know there's a lot of businesses out there from gyms and more the box gyms in the CrossFit community, say, you know, with various apps that they would give you a color for the day. They'll give you a red, they give you a yellow, they give you a green, right? And based on that, there's the red people go there, yellow people go there, red people or green people go here. And we go, okay, hey, red people, you're doing your correctives. Let's do foam rolling. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do 15 minutes of that. You know, yellow, you're doing a little more of a dynamic type of stuff and see how you're feeling. Maybe start with foam rolling, then do that. Hey, green group, we're getting right into it, right? We're going to start with a little more high intensity types of things. So that's what they do, right? To kind of, and that makes it, again, you're taking care of at that point. It's like, okay, they already know what my body's experiencing. Absolutely, right? You start to look at those numbers and the algorithms are getting better to the point of the number that comes in a day up in the morning. It's pretty indicative of where things are at from a global perspective for that person.
And it has a cool factor too, right? So people are going to talk about that. They're going to post that stuff on their social media. I think it's really cool that you talked about ROI at the end. So I'll just hand it over to you. I think it's important to realize there's an ROI point here and there's a service component, right? Like when you service clients at a high level, one of the things I always talk about trainers and coaches is that you need to become irreplaceable, whether that's hands-on techniques, whether that's doing assessment and therefore having a baseline measure and then actually showing people the results, or if it's something like this where you're just bio-individualizing or biohacking their training dose response mechanism for the week. It's such a game changer that so few people are doing it. And if you're first people on the bus, you're going to become well known for it. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, you've become incredibly well known for being the HRV guy, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And that's how you came on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's like, you know, that's a huge thing. That's a huge feather in your cap too, to be perfectly honest, and going to help you going forward.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's been a differentiating factor, right? People come to my office and they've heard me on podcasts or they've seen me in different things, and it's nice to be able to do that. And honestly, like I want to do these things because I want people to start using it because it's such a valuable tool, right? And it's becoming more and more accessible, more and more cost friendly, and more useful for, you know, every individual that's helping people out, right? And so you know, we get the high performance type of realm, which you can do the Elite HRV or the BioStrap or the Whoop or whatever. And then there's the health related things, which we're working on more of the health QB area of things. But no, it's been a crazy almost 8 years of doing HRV with clients and the perspective. It's been very rewarding, and any chance I get to be able to do these things and talks and get people to understand how powerful a tool this is to up their game, it's only going to be better for our community. So yeah, Chad, thank you so much, and the Team Innovative Fitness and the Personal Training Network to let me come on here and talk for a while. It's nice, and hopefully people, you know, step away with this learning something and we'll put something into practice that makes a difference for not only them, but for their clients as well.
Awesome. Great. Honestly, I can't thank you enough. This was amazing. You're very good behind the camera. You're very well rehearsed. This is you know what you're talking about. You're definitely a SME. You're definitely a subject matter expert. And I hope the community benefits from it. And I'm looking forward to be able to put them in your direction in order to be able to help support you, because obviously one of the things this is like an overview, but it's important that people realize that there is a certification process that there is like extensive learning opportunities available so that they become more comfortable and confident in their own health and their own knowledge of HRV so that they can then pay it forward to their clients, which I think it's awesome. So anyway, I appreciate it. You're awesome. I look forward to having you back here again in the near future, but more importantly, I look forward to seeing how your future career endeavors evolve, because you're heading down a really cool path, and you're someone I'm going to keep an eye on for a long time.
You bet. Thanks, Chad. Thanks everybody here that joined in and listened to me ramble on for a little bit, but hope you learned something. And Chad, anytime you want to do something, I'm here.
Awesome, dude.
All right.
Hey, man.
Thank you.